It's important that this chamber makes its voice heard, although we must accept, as Jackie Baillie has said already, that it is ultimately for the UK Parliament to have the final say. And those on the SNP benches may not like that, but people in Scotland voted to remain part of the United Kingdom, and that should be respected. Labour's amendment accepts that the UK is leaving the European Union. There was a UK-wide vote, and those of us who backed Remain lost. The strength of our democracy rests on our respect for the will of the people. And I say to Willie Rennie that in his quest for simplicity and clarity, he seems somehow far too willing to completely dismiss and disregard the result of a UK-wide referendum. Whatever happened to the Democrat and the Liberal Democrats? If you wouldn't mind if I just make a bit more progress, Mr Rennie. Now, I am not happy about the result, and I fear what will happen to our nation. I fear what will happen to the EU nationals who have made Britain their home, but have yet to receive any reassurances about their future. The 181,000 people in Scotland, the 39,000 that live here in Edinburgh, and I don't think we can say often enough as a Parliament, this is your home, you are welcome here. I also fear the impact that Brexit will have on our economy, on jobs and on our public finances. So while I accept that the UK is leaving the European Union, I do not accept Theresa May's terms and the way that she has set them out. And that's why I don't believe Article 50 should be triggered right now. Not when the Tories seem determined to deliver a settlement that will do incalculable damage to the country. I cannot and will not sign up to Theresa May's vision of Brexit. As Daniel Johnson said in this debate, Leave voters didn't back Brexit to make themselves poorer, but that is exactly what is going to happen under the current plans. President Officer, I want to address another part of our amendment, and that's the section on the SNP's plans for another independence referendum. Because the only thing worse than Brexit for Scottish jobs and the economy would be independence. And the SNP government's own figures show that being part of the UK is even more important to Scotland than remaining in the European Union. The economic links built up during our 300-year union are deep and of great benefit to Scotland. On trade, currency, on jobs and so much more, together we are stronger. And as our amendment makes clear, Labour will not support any SNP plan to impose another independence referendum on the people of Scotland. Our nation is divided enough. Another referendum would do irreparable damage to the very fabric of communities across Scotland. And the message from a clear majority in September 2014 was that we should remain in the UK, and the SNP should respect that. But the reality is that the SNP has only been given this excuse to seek another referendum because of the mess the Conservatives have made of this whole process. And Ruth Davidson never fails to try and tell us that the Union is safe in Conservative hands. She spends her days straddling tanks and waving a Union flag just to emphasise the security of the realm. Meanwhile, the actions of her own government have exploited the insecurities people feel in their own lives and reopened the divides of the referendum, despite the Tories' apparent willingness to move on from it. Let's look at how the Conservatives have behaved since the independence referendum in 2014. We had David Cameron's half-baked English votes for English laws, playing straight into the hands of the Nationalists. Then there was the 2015 general election campaign, fully signed up to by Ruth Davidson, which sought to divide our country further by setting Scotland against England, a gift to the SNP. And now we have Brexit. The EU referendum was a device designed entirely to appease the right wing and the very worst of the Conservative Party. And instead of standing his ground, David Cameron capitulated in the hope of buying off a few UKIP votes and to appease people like David Davis and Liam Fox. Now, I haven't got time to go into the detail of the Tory attacks on social security and their multiple attempts to undermine workers' rights, which again undermine the union, pouring flames on the fire for independence. But time and time again, it has been the Conservative and Unionist Party which has put Scotland's place in the UK at risk. Yet the Tories have the brass neck to come to this place and claim to be the party of the union. And Ruth Davidson is sitting there smirking, But she finds herself now voting for something that she knows will damage the UK economy and Scottish job prospects. She told us on TV debates across the nation and thought applauding, telling people that leaving the European Union would be bad for our country. And now she sits
Ms Dugdale,
there.
can I ask you to use the member's name for the OR?
And Ruth Davidson now sits there without a word of regret or an explanation to underline the principles which she now finds herself in. No wonder people have so little faith in politics and in politicians. And can I say to John Lamont, he told us to respect democracy, to look to the future. Bluntly, John Lamont, people are looking for that £350 million that your party promised us we would get for the NHS in the event of leaving the European Union. And I want to conclude, Presiding Officer, by saying this. I voted to remain in the EU referendum last year for many of the same reasons that I voted to stay in the United Kingdom in 2014. Because I reject a narrow nationalist view of the world. The view that blames something or someone else for our country's problems, whether that's England or Westminster, immigrants or the EU. Nationalism, civic, Mr Lockhead, or otherwise, an ideology on the rise the world over, is about breaking apart and creating division. Brexit and independence are two sides of the same coin. And I believe in working together. I believe in solidarity with our friends and our neighbours. I believe that we can achieve more together than we ever could apart. I believe in pooling and sharing resources.
No, I want to hear the member, please.
I believe in pooling and sharing resources, whether that's with the EU to tackle climate change, the refugee crisis or international terrorism, or whether that's with the rest of the UK to fund our public services, to pay pensions or to grow our economy. That's what Labour's amendment calls for, and I urge members to back it at 5 p.m.